I want to see what happens if we use text as the oscillator for synth sound design. We're going to accomplish this by designing our own custom wavetables using different English words and see what we can invent using those. But first, let's talk about what wavetables are and why we'd want to create our own one. Wavetables are essentially like a flip book of different single cycle waves. So like if I flip through this, you can see all the different ones. And then if I click this, you can see that it's literally like a flip book. Serum has got like a metric shit ton of these things. Serum categorizes their wavetables into analog and digital tables. For some reason, I don't know why, but the Serum 2 tables are nested under Serum 2 tables. Anyway, whatever, they categorize them by analog and digital. The analog wavetables are typically sampled from analog gear, so they're typically more basic waves, so like sine waves and square waves, etc. But they introduce some interesting subtle harmonic shifts. Like for this one, for example, as I flip through this flip book, we see it sort of changes ever so slightly. And if I move it to this, you can see it's working between those different waves. The digital waveforms, on the other hand, are typically kind of impossible to make in the real world. They have profiles of waves that just wouldn't be found in nature. That's a terrible example. This one's a bit better. You see how it's like super harsh, and these waves would just be really difficult to create in the real world. So the digital tables are much more synthetic and inorganic. Because wavetables are quite so versatile, they're used across all different genres of music and all different instruments too. From pads, leads, basses, pretty much everything in between. Some of my favorite artists like Noisia and Skrillex make heavy use of wavetables specifically because of its flexibility. Serum is pretty unique in that it lets you define your own custom wavetables using this pretty scary looking editor. There's a couple different ways that you can create your own wavetables. One would be to actually define the different harmonics. So it gives you a bunch of different bins for different harmonics. So if I do that, add a couple of harmonics, you'll see it update in real time. The way that we're going to use this editor is by using the brush and this sort of canvas area here, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is write different English words. So I figure we can probably write a letter at a time by using this editor and create a new wavetable for each letter. That's the idea. Before we get too far into that, I want to think about the different words that we might want to use to create these custom wavetables. I initially thought that I would just use the word Octocap because, why not? A little bit of self-promotion. But I realized there's no reason why we can't do a ton of different words. I'm thinking maybe we could use a different word for each sound that we're trying to make. I want to make 4 sounds: a bass, a pad, a lead, and some sort of FX riser, enough to create a loop of actual music from the things that we create today. I'll source the drum sounds from my own samples. I'm in a bit of a UK garage mood because frankly, I always am. So I'm going to go with hollow bass, soulful pad, plucky lead, and dubby effects. So we've got all of our words. I think it's time to try and create these waveforms. Like I said, 1 letter per wave. Okay, let's start with the H of the hollow bass. So we'll pick a... So there's no vertical line. What can we do? I do that. This might not work. Okay, so clearly we can't write letters using that editor, which in hindsight is actually kind of obvious. A single section of the waveform can either be all the way up or all the way down, but not both. And if we're trying to draw a letter, we need the ability to have both at the same time. We can't let it veer off this way. The waveform at a given position reflects the state of the actual speaker that is making the sound. So either the speaker is out or it's in. It can't be both at the same time, which is pretty obvious now that I think about it. All right, so this is literally impossible using this editor. We need a new plan. Fortunately for us, Serum actually has us covered here, but we need to get a little bit creative. What we could do is create an image of the word that we want to use as our custom wavetable, and then import that PNG directly as a wavetable into Serum. So I have created this giant word, Octocap, on black text on a white background for maximum contrast, and I will get that imported as a wavetable into Serum. All you have to do is edit the wavetable back into the editor that we had before, click import, and then just pick one of these guys. I don't really care. I'm just going to pick the top one. I'm not smart enough to know what any of this means. Then I'm going to grab my Octocap. So if I go back, if I close this guy, you'll see as I roll through the wavetable position, something's happening. But what's happening? The easiest way to see this is to just click anywhere in this area and bam, there is our image. But as you'll notice, as I swipe through this, we are hitting every single letter at the same time, right in the middle there. What I really want is to go through each letter at a time. So hit O, then C, then T, etc. Pretty easy fix. All I'm going to do is take the image, rotate it 90 degrees, and then re-import that. And there we go. We go through the wavetable, hit the O, then the C, then the T. You can see those crazy waves that are getting hit there. Very kind of square waves that we're hitting as we go through. Cool. So I'm going to make an image for each one of the words that we talked about earlier, the hollow bass, soulful pad, plucky lead, and WFX, and create a serum patch for each one of those. And it is going to sound horrible. Prepare your ears because it sounds terrible. Tuning. I'm going to go through each one of those sounds and try and make them sound interesting, or at the very least, like the thing I'm trying to make them sound like. I think I might have something for the bass. So I ended up using 2 of the hollow bass waveforms. I'm enveloping both the wavetable positions. This one is the root pitch, and oscillator B is up 2 octaves with 7 semitones up, so it feels more like a fifth. And the second one has some unison on it for some width. I've split the blend so that the mid signal is much quieter than the sides. It has a filter on it so that we kind of like make it a little more plucky sounding. And then on the FX side of things, I've added some distortion and a flanger to give it more of the hollow sound I want. So this is how this sounds. Maybe a little bit higher. I think what might be missing is some portamento. Ah, that's it. That's the sound. Additionally, I've layered a sub underneath it, so there is just a sub bass. I could have done it in here. Don't know why I didn't do it in here, but there's a sub bass. This one got a little weird. So I started off with the soulful pad thing, and the first thing that I wanted to try was there is a way of processing all of the waves in different ways. So what I did was, I think I did a crossfade on the edges. And what that ended up doing to the wave itself was sort of like mushing it a bit, but it kept the soulful word. So the problem that I had before was that it kept dipping out. So it would be S and then nothing, and then something else. And what I wanted to do was ramp through the sound so that I could do some interesting wave type things through here. But this was an interesting approach to messing with the wavetables, but it still keeps the word intact. So I'm happy with that. Outside of that, it's just one wavetable, wide unison. There's a bit of a bandpass filter happening on it. It's a slow intro, a long release, and that is about it. Doesn't sound great. I did do a little bit of a dip on the EQ8 down here too in the mid-range, but it's a basic pad. All right, for the plucky lead, again, it's the plucky lead word. A little bit of envelopes happening on the wavetable position, an MG low with some cutoff, and just a little bit of a slower attack, which gives us and finally here is the WFX, so just the WFX sound, some unison, and it's a slow ramp up because I wanted it to be sort of a riser, so a woo kind of thing. And it sounds like this. So now we've got the sounds. I want to put together a little beat. All right, I've put together a mix using the sounds that we've created. So the hollow bass, soulful pad, plucky lead, and WFX. Added some of my own drums and a couple snares, couple loops, a loop on the top. And this is what it sounds like. So I think the thing that surprised me the most of doing this experiment was quite how hollow the sounds end up being. Maybe it's the font that I chose. I wonder how it would sound if I chose a different font, like a serif font or something completely different. Let me know if you experiment with this, if you experiment with different fonts or different shapes in general. I'd be interested to learn what makes the most interesting or pleasing sounds. Because whilst I think this was pretty cool, it was quite harsh. It was difficult to tame down the sounds the way that I might have wanted to.